Alright, now what I'm just going to basically show you in this video is just the subtle differences in the back panels of some speed lights. In front of you here I have on the left side the Canon 580EX2. In the center I have the Canon 430EX2. And on the far right I have the Godox TT685N. Now most, if not all, speed lights again have the same buttons to look out for. And if I just bring this closer, you'll see a mode button, off and on button, a button here that has like a little flash, a little icon with an H on it, and also a zoom button. And then you also have this little pilot button, which is just a test button. And I'll explain as to what that is used for, especially for this lighting exercise 1 assignment. If you don't have a radio transmitter just yet and you need a way to complete your assignment, you would be using this button to trigger off the flash. The only drawback is you have to have either a stand holding up your light meter on one end or another person to hold the light meter as you're doing your tests. Now to turn this on is obviously really easy. You just switch it on. And right away it's set to its default mode, which is TTL mode. Here we go. You can see that. Okay. But throughout this course I will have you switch over to manual mode, okay? And you're going to be doing that by hitting the mode button once, and it should go ahead and set it over to manual mode. Okay, let me see if this thing could focus. There we go. Let me just go ahead and zoom this in a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now, how do you read this? What does 1/1 mean? And basically what that means is that you've engaged the flash in manual mode and it is in full power. Okay. Now if I want to drop the power, meaning lower the power output on this flash, I'm simply just going to hit the center button of this dial and it's going to highlight it or have it to start blinking. Okay. And I'm just going to rotate my dial to the left, counterclockwise. Oops, let me go ahead and hit that again. And notice the numbers on the far right says -0.03. That basically means that you're just lowering the power output by 1/3 of its power output. Okay, if I do it one more click, notice it's now -0.7, and that just means 2/3 lower from the 1/1 or full power output. Okay, I'm gonna go one more. Okay, so now it's down to half power. Okay, I'm going to rotate it again. Okay, negative. So it's half power minus 1/3 of a power of a full stop power. Okay, so it's a quarter now, quarter power. I've set my flash to a quarter power of its output. Okay, 1/8. 1/16. 1/32. 1/64. 1/128. And it looks like for this particular flash, that is the lowest power output that I could set it to. is 1 over 1/28 power. Now, I'm going to do the same to the Canon 430 EX2. I want to set it to its lowest setting. So again, once I turn it on, it is set to its default mode, which is TTL. And now again, we'll explain TTL down the road. But for now, I want you to always engage your flash in manual mode. You can hit mode. So it went to manual mode, M for manual. Now it's by default will automatically go to its full power capacity. I'm going to hit the center button here. And then all I'm doing is going to click left. It's not a dial button for this particular model. It's just a click system, a minus and a plus sign here. So I'm going to hit it again. Actually, it looks like I had to hold it down. So if you do have the 430 EX2, you have to hold down the center button to make it blink. So you can change the power output. So I'm going to hold it down. And then, okay, same thing. See, quarter power. Now I'm going down to 1/8 of a power, 1/16 of a power, 132, 164. And what do you know? So that's the lowest that it'll go is 1 over 64. Okay. Now before I show you, I mean, the Godox line is the same thing. You can see the same options here. You got the mode button. If you hold down the middle button when you've already finally set it to manual mode, it'll engage it, and you can just rotate the dial to lower the output. Now, I want to be clear about something is, obviously, there's a size difference with the two flashes. It doesn't necessarily correlate with the flash's ability to throw more power just because this one is bigger than this one, although it may be safe most of the time to assume that, but you always want to have a better understanding of what your flash's capabilities are in terms of power output. Now, and what I mean by that is, okay, so we have the Canon 580 EX2 on the left and the 430 EX2 on the right. My assumption obviously would be that this is a stronger flash, but when you start to complete your lighting exercise 1 assignment, you'll know that, well, I'm not sure, actually you won't know because you need 2 different flashes to really have a better understanding of this exercise. But if I set this flash to match my 430EX to 164, okay, so right now both flashes are set to 164 power output. If I put my flash at the same distance, let's just say 4 feet from my subject, and I set it off, right, and I metered it, and obviously what's going to happen is that the meter reading for this one is going to be a lot lower than this one. So that's the whole point of completing the lighting exercise, is I want you guys to have a better understanding of your flash, of your own flash's range, right? Giving you a starting point. So for me, my shooting style is relatively close to my subjects. I'm shooting anywhere between 5 feet, or if not closer, to 8 feet in range, you know, between me and my subject that I'm photographing. And as well as my flash, I know that it's anywhere between, you know, pretty close, like 2 feet to maybe 4 feet for the most part. And so I know my range. I have an understanding of where my starting point will be. For example, if I set my flash to 1 over 64 on the back end of my Godox flash, I know I'm shooting at about 5.6 range or f4 range, to be honest with you. Depending if I'm using my modifier, you can pretty much, for the most part, take note that whenever you start using large modifiers like the Westcott Apollo, if that diffuser on the front, and because of the style of modifier that is, where the flash is shooting towards the back end of the umbrella and then diffusing out the light the opposite way, I'm losing about one stop of my flash's output. And I'll show you a demo on that if you are not quite following with what I'm trying to say here. But that's the whole premise of the lighting exercise 1, is that you're going to basically set your flash to its lowest output. At a certain distance, you'll get a meter reading. Okay, and then you'll double the distance, and then you're going to find out, without adjusting anything just yet, you want to find out how much of light output you lose just by doubling the distance. And so I do want you to be very precise in this exercise. Use a tape measure and measure out your distance. So use like a what is those painter's tape, about 8 feet long. If not, try and do 16 feet so you can, put a long strip of painter's tape on the ground and then start doing your markings. Start at 2 feet, and then 4 feet, and then 8 feet, and then 16 feet. All right. And then you want to take your measurements at each of those distances. Again, starting from your lowest flash output and then moving to the next distance. Don't change anything yet. Just conclude whether or not you are losing light. Obviously you are, because you are pulling your light further away from your subject or your meter. And then I want you to compensate for that loss of light. And then I want you to record what you had to change your flash output to compensate for that loss of light. Okay? I'll include some additional pictures and I'll be on standby to answer any of your questions regarding this lighting exercise. But I hope this is a somewhat relatively helpful video in operating your flash just by basically switching the mode, changing the power outputs. We won't get into the zooms quite yet, or high-speed sync modes. I just want you to understand the basic functions of your flash.